joining me right now from the worldwide leader in sports is one of their lead basketball information men. Love the conversations I had with Brian Windhorst. How are you, Brian?
Hi, Rich.
So this is the real deal. Is this it? We're getting it? Is this happening? Basketball's back?
I mean, today, look, we've had a long run of very dark days. This is a good moment. I want to rain on that moment. The vote of the owners tomorrow is not going to decide whether or not there's NBA basketball. I know that's what it's going to seem like.
Okay.
But what's going to decide if there's NBA basketball is if the virus continues to recede or continues to be in a place where we feel comfortable doing that. I am right with everybody. Let's talk about the 22 team. Let's talk about this scenario. Let's talk about that scenario. But I'm already sensing that people are forgetting the whole reason why it's going on this way, which is there's got to be safety, And today, Florida had its highest number of new cases in 6 weeks. Now, that doesn't mean that everything's not going to be in a position where you feel comfortable doing that in 2 months. But so when people say, is there going to be basketball, I say, I hope so. I really hope. I hope that's what's most important. But at least for me, I'm never going to forget about what the number one priority is here. All
right. So then let's linger on that issue for the moment. I'm imagining that Adam Silver and the rest of the Board of Governors and those that are the stewards of the sport have agreed on a health protocol. And based on what you can tell, does that look like?
They're working on it. They're working on it. From what I understand, it's going to be testing every single day. And I assume that the players know what that means. I think that the test, I'm not a doctor on the front lines. I can't say, but I think the test means that you still get swabbed up your nose, which I don't know if I want to do 80 consecutive days. But, for basketball, I think people are willing to do it. Dave McMenamin from ESPN had this story that posted overnight about certain teams hoping that they could, if they lose their home court advantage, that they could maybe get some sort of give back and that they could pick their hotel when it comes to Disney because, an NBA player, an NBA team would rather stay at the Four Seasons as opposed to the Wilderness Lodge or whatever. And that the fact that anybody in the league is even talking about that made me want to smack my head. The point is not the quality of the bed, although obviously staying in the same place for 3 months, I'd like to have a nice bed. The point is the safety. The idea here is that you build something where you can keep people protected. And so all of this is going to be part of in other sports, in other leagues, it's been 60, 80 pages of this is what our protocol is. This is what we're going to do every day. This is what we're going to do at the hotel. This is what we're going to do at the arenas. This is what we're going to do on the bus. This is what we're going to do at practice. This is what we're going to do if somebody has symptoms. This is what we're going to do if somebody actually tests positive. This is what we're going to do if somebody turns their ankle and needs to go have an MRI. This is what you have to do if you're coming over from Europe to play. This is what you have to do when you're traveling into Orlando. This is what you have to do in this. I can go on and on. It sounds tedious. Nobody wants to talk about it, but this is what this is about. This is the tough thing. This is what this is about. And all of those check marks have to be there, or it's not going to matter. So I'm sorry that I don't want to be Debbie Downer. People within the league have yelled at me for talking like this, but I can't help it. It's just what I'm. I just feel like I have to say it.
Well, is that the reason why July 31st has been targeted as a start date? That's 7 weeks away, and we all know 7 hours. Life feels like one. You can pack 1 year's worth of developments into 7 hours. We're talking about 7 weeks now. Imagining that maybe we're a full month away for everybody to actually get themselves to Orlando.
Yeah, that's a factor, for sure. We're facing potential double quarantine for a lot of guys. Right now, the law in Florida, or the rule, I should say, and I have no idea whether the rule will change. Right now, if you fly to Florida from New York, New Jersey, Louisiana, I think Connecticut, you have to quarantine for 14 days. Will that still be the case in a few weeks? I don't know. But if you're in Europe, like right now, if you're a Dallas Mavericks fan, Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis, your two best players, they're in Europe. So that means even if they're on a plane right now to come back here, they're going to have to, according to the laws of the country, they're going to have to sit in a hotel in quarantine or their house or whatever for 2 weeks. They can't start playing basketball. So, and the other thing is that everybody in the NBA you talk to on the training side is all worried about these players who have all went cold turkey or vastly reduced their normal workout loads and haven't been able to play basketball in any sort of 5-on-5 way. And they all were saying, you've got to have time to build back up. So in addition to building in time to make sure that we have more opportunity to fight the virus and flatten the curve or drop the curve or what have you, just getting the players back in health so that we don't have guys. Because I think I read in the Bundesliga, in the German league, in the first weekend, on the first Saturday and Sunday, they had 15 soft tissue injuries right out of the gate, which was, 5 times what you normally would see for a midseason game. So, that's one of the things they're trying to guard against, which is one of the reasons why this time is built in.
Brian Windhorst, senior NBA writer of ESPN, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. So then let's just place that aside for the moment. Tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern Time, Board of Governors, for those who may not know, who is that? What does that mean? How does this go? And then what?
It's a more responsible way of saying owner. One person from every team will be on the call, and they'll have a vote, and the vote will pass. I mean, this is one of those things. And the other thing is, unlike we see in baseball, where there's a problem with the union, the NBA's union issue isn't going to be. It will probably be later for next season because they've actually been able to have some revenue this year. But they've kept Chris Paul, who's the president, and Michelle Roberts, the executive director. Adam Silver has kept them alongside the entire way here. They're not being surprised with any proposals being slapped on, their desk, being emailed as an attachment, say, here, look at this, now vote on it. In fact, Michelle Roberts is so confident in the working relationship with Adam Silver, she said that she doesn't even think they'll need to take a vote amongst. So the union, I believe, I don't know for sure at this very second, but as far as I understand, the union will probably be willing to sign off on it. The Board of Governors will ratify it. And part of the reason why, Rich, the union is going to sign off on it is this plan builds in a whole bunch of game checks for players. This is something that is pretty basic, but I can understand if you don't follow it, if you're a casual fan. NBA players do not get paid for playoff games. There's a bonus pool that they get if you get far enough in the playoffs. You get sort of a bonus pool, but you don't get a game check. So if you advance right on to the postseason, right on to 16-team postseason, the players would lose all of those game checks. 259 total games, all of those games gone. By bringing back 8 games per team, which will be 88 total games, they bring back a whole bunch of game checks that will help the players retain some money. And so that's one of the reasons why they're going to sign off on it. And then we'll get to the difficult part, which is telling all these people how the schedule is going to look. Because, Rich, this schedule is going to be unfair. There's 13 teams in the West. They're all playing 8 games. Guess what? Not everybody's going to play the same schedule. Guess what? Zion Williamson is a made-for-TV player. He's probably going to have to play some tougher games than the Phoenix Suns. So there's going to be an inherent unfairness, and there's going to be fans who are going to complain about it, and teams are going to complain about it, and they're all going to be right. And there's nothing that's going to be done. You're just going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, we were talking about that before. The Eastern Conference is kind of simple. You got 8 games. There's 9 teams. Everybody plays each other once, and then we're a hunky-dory right there. And then, in the West, you've got 13 teams. Who plays who? I mean, nobody wants a piece of the Lakers or Clippers, or you can go on. You can just go down the road right there, right? So certainly if you're one of those teams trying to play in.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing about it was when the league stopped, New Orleans, who is right now tied for 10th, I think they're 4 games back of Memphis for the last 5. They had the easiest schedule of all of those contending teams, and Memphis had the hardest schedule. So if you're New Orleans, you've been given a gift that they didn't cut it to 16, but you're going to lose your easy schedule. And I know that if I was my boss at ESPN or I was DNC, I'd say, hey, I think first game out of the gate should be LeBron versus Zion. Let's sign it up. You might have to play some harder games, and that's the thing. There's just going to be unfairness here. I mean, you look at Memphis. Memphis has a 3.5-game lead. They've played 65 games, or I think they've actually played 66. They've earned their way into the top 8 over 66 games. Now you're telling them they have to play 8 more games and continue to earn their place. And so let's say they stay in 8th place over that second test. Then they might have to play in a play-in tournament. They may have to qualify for the playoffs essentially 3 different times. Is that fair? No, it's not. Tough luck.
Yeah, I guess so. But that said, Brian Windhorst here on the Rich Eisen Show. Prior to the pandemic breaking out, I believe your last appearance prior to all the craziness before the world began to completely spin off its axis, you were talking about, in your mind, what you think would be an improvement to the NBA schedule, which would be to shorten it and have the last couple of weeks be a tournament for the play-in for the 8th and final playoff spot for each conference. I heard that. My buddy Chris Brockman heard that. We're like, we like that idea. Looks like your idea is going to get a test program, Brian.
Not necessarily, because it's just going to be potentially 2 teams. I wanted all
Yes.
15 teams, and my idea was to basically the 7 teams that qualify in each conference. They move on to the playoffs as normal, and they await the number 8 seed. And then the 8 teams left in each conference play a single elimination tournament, basically 8-4-2, So you could basically play like a conference tournament, essentially. You win 3 games. You do it over 5 days. 5 days of NBA basketball. Every team could win their way in. That's what I foresee. That's not really what this is. This is, you want the nitty gritty, Rich.
Yes.
The bottom line.
Yes, Brian.
They had to gin this up to give an excuse for why they're bringing back 6 extra teams. The reason they're bringing back the 6 extra teams is because they want to play enough regular season games to help keep enough money in the players' pockets. By the way, they don't have to do it. They have the right under the CBA to just cancel those games and say, we've got to take your money because of the pandemic. But they need the union to sign off on this. They need the union to agree to come to Orlando. They need the union to agree to a contract for next year. So they had to do something to get the players more money, okay? So they are trying to figure out the way to do this. Well, they can't have a team that's 6 games back with 8 games to play. You can't bring them in there and say, okay, now play these games that are really important, because they're not. Okay, so the only way you can do it is if you create with smoke and mirrors some path that you can at least say to the players, you have a chance to play your way in. And, with this layoff, records may not matter. Like, the Indiana Pacers may come into this thing, be red hot, and blitz their way to the Eastern Conference because it's the nature of the uncertainty of this.
Yes.
And we may see some great stuff, and it may be a tremendous thing. But the reason they're doing this play-in tournament is to just stick the carrot out there to try to justify why they're doing these 22 teams.
Well, I mean,
and by the way, I don't blame them for any of that.
No.
I'm just telling you what happened.
No, it's in that. Didn't Damian Lillard basically say, if you don't give me an opportunity to play my way into the playoffs, I don't want to come? And Steve Kerr's basically saying, we consider the season over. So this kind of checks both those boxes. And and this is part of the reason why I love having you on, Brian, because you don't mince any words. Here I am, kind of glass half full. I thought some of these games, you got to just play some games too, right, before you start playing for
that's
for
true.
keeps.
That is definitely a side benefit, but they could have played regular season games. But I'll just give you the actual numbers. Right now, the players, and they just got a paycheck on Monday. The players are 25% of their paychecks are being taken from them to put into a fund to get ready for all games being canceled, so that they don't have their pay just stop, okay? If they cancel the rest of the regular season and said no more game checks, their paychecks going forward will be docked probably around 40%, okay? And keep in mind that they are hiring individuals. They pay over 40% in taxes, most of them. So that means you're going to be getting about 20% of your gross pay. By doing this way, they're going to potentially knock it down to about 10% of your paycheck being docked. And by the way, they're getting paid on these contracts through November. Well, ask me if I was in their shoes, if I had my pay getting docked 25%, and if we didn't play, it was going to be 40%. If we played a couple of games for a few weeks, it'd be 10%. I know that I want my pay at least docked 10%, not 40%. So that's why they're doing it. Like, I'm all for it. Like, let's do it. Let's protect the money. Let's keep everybody in a good frame of mind. Let's work together. Let's share the pain. Let's have some basketball. But that's why this is all happening. This is not happening because they studied the scenario and found out that historically teams can come back from 6 games down in the last quarter. That's all just bogus, hocus pocus.
Brian Windhorst here for a few more minutes here on the Rich Eisen Show. So how would you take a look at the Eastern Conference? Basically, it's like, can the Wizards somehow catch enough fire in the last 8 games in Orlando?
Nah, you know what?
Right.
It's about the number 8 seed. We'll look at the number 8 seed because, we care about Zion or whatever.
Right.
The more interesting thing, there's one game in the win column separating the number 4 seed in the West, which is Utah, and the number 7 seed. Makes a pretty big difference being the number 17, potentially playing the Clippers or the Nuggets and being the number 4 seed, And in the East, you look at Philly right now is in the 6th seed. I don't think they want to be in the 6th seed. I don't think they want to play Boston coming out of the gate. Boston doesn't want to play Philly, So I think just as much as this is about the back end and putting Zion on some TV and some stuff and Devin Booker getting some opportunity, this is about the seeding in between. Because the thing about it is with no home court advantage, the matchups are going to be even more important. Philly 29-2 at home. If you've got home, if you're that good at home, you feel pretty good about anything. Now, if you don't have that home court to back on, the matchups have a lot more value. So, to me, I think where those teams rank in these individual conferences and the fight for those seedings will be just as important or even more important than whoever finishes 8th to get thrown to the Lions.
How many gyms are in Disney World? Do you know?
I think they're going to do. Yeah, there's 3 different facilities. There's 2 arenas. One of them, from what I understand, is mostly used for like cheerleading and dance, which I think is going to be the main arena that they use. And then there's another arena where you've seen games probably. They play college events there.
Sure.
So there's 2 arenas, and then there's going to be a third place like a convention center where they'll put down practice courts because the teams are going to have to practice there as well. But the interesting thing is, Rich, there'll be 2 games. My expectation is that there will be 5 or 6 games per day during this period. So there will be games going on all day. You will be able to watch NBA basketball at 2 o'clock. And when we get to the playoffs, it won't be the case for the second round. But based on this date in October, excuse me, there will be NBA playoff games, I believe. I haven't seen the schedule yet, but there will be NBA first-round playoff games taking place at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a weekday, like with the NCAA tournament.
Oh.
It won't be that for the second round going forward. Then you can easily do it. But they're going to have to play all these games and get it done by October. They're going to have to play 3 and 4 playoff games a day, and they're not going to want to play them concurrently too much. They're going to want to single them off, and I think you could have some afternoon playoff basketball.
I think Chris Brockman, you were applauding off the camera right there.
Windhorst, let's go. Full day of hoops.
As you were busy getting our stream back online because we had internet problems, Brian, I appreciate your patience. You missed Brian basically say, let's pump the brakes a little bit here. And I don't think you're being a Debbie Downer, Brian. You're talking about reality and what's going on, and there's families that are going to come, and we need to know the whole logistics. And many sports leagues are going to be very interested in how many hotels are being used and how do you get players to and from stadiums and how do you get people who are in support roles to stay healthy and how do you test them all and what happens if somebody does test positive and how to react to it. I think everyone's going to be keenly looking at this thing and hopefully the virus and science and the way that it progresses can only serve to help with more time.
Yeah, and Rich, we're going to learn like the NHL is going to start like a month before the NBA, and the Premier League in England. I mean, we've already got soccer happening in Europe, but the NBA is going to be sitting there taking notes, watching this. What is this? What do we do with crowd noise? Okay, what do we do with this? I mean, and it's going to be strange for the players. The players are going to dress at their hotel. And these are guys who are used to walking into arenas with $10,000 worth of clothes on that they planned out for the playoffs 3 months prior.
Yes.
They're going to come to the arena in their uniform. And after the game, they're going to slap on ice bags, I think, and go get in the bus. And they're going to shower back at their hotel. And here's the other thing. they may not even get their rooms cleaned. Like, every day they may have towels and sheets left outside their rooms, and they're going to have to go make their own beds and clean their own bath. I mean, there'll be some cleaning, but they're not going to get, from what I understand, they're not going to have daily service. And, you've been to Disney World, or I've been to Disney World. I don't know if you have.
Yes, I have. Sure, of course.
I've eaten at the hotels at Disney World. The food it gets repetitive after a while. I don't know if, I'm sure they're going to have some of their own chefs in there, but, you're going to, they're not going to go to them. I mean, I know that it's so nice to hear Disney World, and it's a nice thing. They're not going to the Magic Kingdom. I think Woj mentioned in his reporting today that they will be allowed to play golf, which is great for the guys who play golf. But they're not. I don't expect they're going to be able to go to clubs on a nightly basis. They'll do. I'm sure that they will do some things to help them blow off steam and recreation. But this is not going to be going to summer camp.
No, I got it.
This is going to be hard.
I guess so, but let's for some teams it won't be that long because they'll play the 8 regular season games and go home, and then for other teams it won't be that long because they'll get stomped in the first round of the playoffs, and it's a business trip. It's a business trip for everybody to cut checks, keep this thing going, get through this season, and then we'll deal with what 2020, 2021 looks like. I mean, I guess, right?
And I know people are already talking about this is going to be asterisks, and if they feel that way, go for it. I'm not going to fight with you on it. That's fine. But this will be one of the hardest things to win that anybody has ever played for in basketball. To go through a season having to stop down everything, then having to restart, find your edge again, and dealing with not having your facility, not having your personal chef, not having your same therapy equipment, to have to deal with all of that, to go through the mental stress of having limited access to your family and friends, to go through the mental stress of having to be living in a hotel room for 3 consecutive months, because it's going to be almost 3 months by the time you quarantine, train, and go through all the way to the finals. If you think that makes that trophy that you win at the end lesser, I can't talk you out of it, but I think it's going to make it just as hard as any other title's ever been won.
Oh, man. Brian, I always say it. You're the best. Love our chats. Thanks for the time. Look for our call again very soon.
Take care, Rich.
Right back at you. That's Brian Windhorst. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.